quieras, Javier. ¿Empezamos? Hola. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Spain Pavilion. For those who is the first time you come, I'm Alicia Montalvo. I'm the responsible of organizing the program in the Spain Pavilion, and I would like to welcome you and, of course, all the participants in this extraordinary panel. In the program we are trying to organize our events related with the issue of the day. And for us today is the day of innovation, science, and industry. So we are very lucky because we have a panel that is dealing with two of these issues, and probably the third one too, innovation and industry. I would like to welcome the Secretary General, Raúl Blanco. Thank you very much for coming, and of course all the panelists that will be introduced by Elena Salgado. She is the President of ASC and the former Vice President of the Spanish government and Minister of Economy. So thank you very much for coming, and Raúl, please, you have the floor.
¿Lo hago aquí? ¿Desde allí?
Sí, como donde quieras.
Bueno, aquí mismo, como es la introducción. Buenos días, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with this excellent panel with the ex-vice president, former vice president of the Spanish government, and excellent representatives of the Spanish industry, of the Spanish economy. First of all, I'm sorry because I've been running during all the distance from the entry till here to arrive just on time. Today is the day of innovation, science, and industry. So just two or three ideas, very brief, in order before welcoming the panel. For us, the industry is very relevant. It's very relevant because the positive spillovers of industry in our economy, in our society, including the ecological transition and the relevance of industry in the climate change. Industry is very relevant for our to have a territorial balance in our country. Industry is very important to have social cohesion in our country. So it's absolutely related or correlated the relationship between industry and certain types of jobs, high qualified jobs, high retributed, high wage jobs, and also more stable than other sector jobs. So the spillovers of industry are very relevant around our economy, and afterwards different representatives, excellent representatives from our economy in the train industry sector, in agro-food sector, in TSOs sectors will explain very clearly these points. But also I would like to say that only that there is no innovation and no science in our country, and maybe in Europe in the advanced countries, without industry. There is no advance in digitalization and in the digitization process of the economy without industry. But also, and it's very relevant obviously here, there is no possible advance of ecological transition without industry, because industry for us in our country always has been the first sector to adapt new rules, new laws, but also kinds of certification like environmental certifications like ISO 40001, etc. The same paper that industry is always doing, the same spillovers that industry is generating in science, technology, in our territorial balance, is also the key for the ecological transition in Spain. Not only sectors very actually which are in the media, like automotive sector, but all the different sectors of our industry, agro-food, train, different, also the participants from the big infrastructure companies that we have in Spain, very internationalized, are very, very relevant for this process of ecological transition. Without industry, there is no ecological transition possible. Industry is a clear ally of the ecological transition. So just these ideas, and please thank you very much to all the panelists and also to Ms. Elena Salgado for being here, because organizing this in 15 days is absolutely difficult, and especially if you take into account the agendas of the panelists. So thank you very much, and please.
No, I think I have this one. So thank you to the Secretary General of Industry, and well, good afternoon to all of you that are attending this meeting here, but also people who are attending it on remote. And buenas tardes a todos, a las personas que están siguiendo este debate por vía telemática. Vamos a intentar que sea un debate interesante. And of course, we have all the ingredients to make this debate very interesting. The most important of them is the presence, the participation of the people who are around this table. Although the director of the Pavilion of Spain has made a short introduction of the people who are going to participate in this panel, well, I want to say some words about all of them. Joining us today, Ignacio Madridejos, the CEO of Ferrovial, which is one of the world's main infrastructure and services operators. Marcelino Oreja, the CEO of Enegas, a Spanish natural gas transport company with 2,000 kilometers of gas pipelines, 4 underground warehouses, and 4 regasification plants. Carlos de Palacio, president of Talgo, is the company specialized in the design, construction, and maintenance of railway rolling stock. Juan Manuel González, founder of Cerealto, Zero Foods, is a global agri-food company dedicated to the development and production of cereal products for retailers and for brands. And Alejandro Martínez, president of the Erovsky Foundation and director of the Health and Sustainability of Erovsky. Erovsky is a Spanish supermarket company with more than 100 establishments in Spain. And finally, José Ángel Rupérez, president of Tecnologías y Desarrollo, an independent non-profit organization that works to facilitate sustainable development. And following this brief presentation, simply to know who is talking, let us begin the debate. I hope that at the end of the debate we will have some time for questions from the audience. So let's start. The first aspect I would like to address is what is already being done in the different organizations which are around this table to contribute to decarbonization. So I would like to ask each of you to provide a brief description for 3-4 minutes, 5 maximum. I will say something if you exceed 5 minutes, and I will start in this way. So first, Ignacio Madridejos from Ferrovial.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for this invitation. We are very glad to be here and to participate in this debate. No? I think it's worth first to give some context of the challenge that we have ahead. No? because this is not business as usual. This is a disruptive transformation what we have ahead. No? We need to reach 1.7 ton per capita in less than 10 years, and some countries like the US today are at 16, and China is at 8. No? And this cannot be done without the participation of the private sector, no, of companies. And when you see more details about the problem, 40% of the emissions are coming from buildings, and close to 1/3 is coming from transportation. No? Even road transportation is close to 25%. No? Clearly, these are sectors that are very close to ferrovial, and in which we can contribute. What we see is that there are new trends that are affecting all companies, and especially ferrovial. One of them is related to renewable energies. We see that now it's very competitive, that there is a lot of funding for this type of projects. We see a general electrification of the economy, not only for buildings, also for transport. What we see is a new concept, completely new concept of mobility, with mega cities, with mobility as a service. And also we see a lot of appetite for investors, putting a lot of pressure in companies to work on climate change. No? What we are doing in ferrovial under this context is what we expect also other companies are doing. The first thing to improve is to measure. And what we are doing is measuring, following the CDP protocol. And we have an A rating, measuring scope 1, 2, and 3 since many years. And after you measure, the next is to define targets. No? And it's something also that we have done. We have a 2020 target related to year 2009. And we define an objective of a 35% reduction of scope 1 and 2 emissions. Only last year, we already achieved this objective with a 54% reduction on the intense emissions and a 14% reduction of the absolute emissions. And also, even with the scope 3, we reached a 22% of reduction in emissions. No? And all this thanks to different projects, no? Energy efficiency in buildings, renewable energies that are now 44% of our electricity, gas from landfills, and also working with partners like Hydro. No? Once we have achieved this target, what we have defined is a new one. So we have defined a 2030 target, and this is science-based target. No? It's based on the base available technologies. It's based on the target of 2 degrees Celsius by the year 2030. No? And in that, we have defined a reduction of 32% in the scope 1 and 2, a 43% reduction in the scope 1 and 2 intense, and also a 23% reduction in the scope 3. Of course, this also with 100% in renewable energy in year 2025. This is not easy. Of course, we have a plan. In order to achieve these targets, you need to have a plan. And this plan is not a business as usual. No? You need to identify also how you change your business portfolio, how you change your business in order to reach these objectives. No? And the thing is, the key at the end is that make sure that you understand, analyze the risk and opportunities, including climate change, and you consider the economic impact of that. No? And at the same time, as companies, we have to be present. No? We have to take action and to be vocal. And we are present in the Green Growth Group. We are present in Hydro, a Center of Excellence for Sustainability. So we have to be present and comment these topics. No? Of course, I mean, there is a lot of things to do and ahead in these next years. I think we have many challenges, and I see these challenges and opportunities. But as a company, we need to consider working in green aviation. We need to continue working in new mobility infrastructure with low emissions. We need to continue working in energy efficiency of buildings, things that we can talk or comment later. But this will be a brief explanation of what we are doing about climate change in our company, Ferrovial.
Okay, we will talk about the future. What are your future plans or your strategic plans to fight climate change? But now is what you are doing now, as you have expressed. So, Marcelino, please, from Enagas.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Minister. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. So, speaking about Enagas, we are the Spanish TSO, so we have the pipes through where we see the gas flowing. Let me just say, Ignacio, that we are not only speaking about renewable electricity, but renewable gas also. So we're speaking about renewables. Gas is going to be also a topic, a trending topic in the future. So there's 3 things I'd like to speak about. One is what we are doing as a company to reduce emissions in our infrastructures or in our production process. Okay? We have reduced by 50% the emissions in our company. We've done from 600,000 tons to 300,000, so we've reduced by 50% in 4 years. And we have committed to reduce our emissions 15% more up to 2025 and up to 50% in 2050. So we are trying to produce less CO2 in our processes. That's shifting our compressor station from gas to electricity, to renewable electricity, using hydrogen in some of our processes, and I'll come back to hydrogen again. So we are using hydrogen in our regas plants, in our process, in order to reduce by 8%. I have some partner here from one of our plants, Sagunto, and we're doing this in Cartagena. We'll shift to others. So that's something really new. Innovation is part of that process. So we will be able to produce renewable hydrogen in our regas plants in order to reduce the consumption of natural gas in the process of our plant. We are also committed, all our employees are committed, so we have all our bonuses in all our employees are related to the CO2 produced by the company. So that's also a way to have everyone involved within the company. But that's what has to do with our process. It is also very important for us to try to shift from other fuels to gas in order to help to reduce CO2 emissions. I really think that when we speak about climate change and fight against climate change, we not only have to speak about 2050, but also about 2019 and 2020. Anything we can do today or tomorrow to reduce emissions, it's very important. And this is gas here is going to help to this transformation. So we are working in order to improve and to increase the use of LNG in railways. And we have a project together with Renfe in order to shift from diesel to LNG in railways. In trucks, long distance trucks, also shifting from diesel to LNG, and mainly in marine fuels, where I think that moving from LNG, from heavy fuels to LNG is going to be very important in the future, and we are working very strongly with the Spanish government in order to move from heavy fuels to LNG. We are also, on the third point, we are investing in new technologies in order to try to find new opportunities and new technologies to reduce the use of other fuels and the consumption of LNG. We're doing this in two ways. One is through our own venture capital fund, Enagas Emprende. We have invested in 8 different companies. We are looking for new ventures, new opportunities, and we ask anyone who has an idea that could help to reduce the use of LNG or to shift from other fuels to LNG. We're happy to help. And we're also investing in other funds to promote, through venture capital, investments in new ventures, new companies, new technologies. And here we will speak about it afterwards. I think that we're going to see many things coming, at least in the gas industry, blending hydrogen and biogas with LNG, or using green hydrogen where brown hydrogen or grey hydrogen is today used in many processes. I leave this for the next question. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carlos de Palacio from Talgo.
Thank you, Elena. I will try to speak with my limited English, and I will try to be concise. Answering to your question, what we have been doing so far in Talgo for contributing to the fight against the climate and against the emissions, I would say there is 2 aspects in this question. One, the industrial proceedings we use, in which I can say that our manufacturing of trains, we use electrical energy, 100% electrical energy, which means zero emissions. And this electrical energy comes only 100% also from renewable sources. So we only use clean energy so far in our manufacturing. And I have to say that This is mainly for manufacturing, but we have also maintenance. In maintenance, we use mainly also electrical energy with same origin, but all small parts that we have to use, all the types of energy, we are all the time monitoring this and trying to reduce it. So it is a target of the company, not a recent one, but since the very origin of the company, to have as an objective, let's say, the use of the less if from the point of view of emissions way of manufacturing. This, I would say, would be the aspect from the point of view of the industry. But now, from the point of view of the product we do trains. And trains, compared with cars and aeroplane, is the mean of transport it is the one who produces less emissions. I think it's more or less 1/5 of the emissions that the car produces and 1/3 of the emissions produced by the aeroplanes. So in itself, we are in a sector, our industry and my company is in a sector in which we are doing very much for this. But inside this sector, Talgo, and thanks to the technology exclusive and original from Talgo, that allows us to manufacture and to do the lightest trains in the market nowadays, we can say that around our trains can be around between 25 and 30% lighter than the other trains, all of them, I would say, as an average. That means 30% less energy consumption, even if it is clean, even if it is electrical energy, but at the end is energy consumption, which one of the targets is to try to reduce it also in itself. So we can say that as an average we consume around between 25 and 30% less energy than any other trains. So I would say that what we have been doing so far in these two aspects could be said in this word. Then maybe later we can talk about lighter materials, hydrogen as a power energy of the train, but for the moment I stay here.
Okay. So, Juan Manuel from Cerealto Zero Foods. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Elena, for the opportunity. And I'm really proud because I represent a small, medium-sized company involved in the agribusiness sector. And we are 100 times smaller than Nestle in order to take the dimension of my company. And I want to speak about how my company can, in a small portion, can do the best for our planet and what kind of things we are doing in this project. And 7.500 millones de personas se alimentan en el mundo hoy. En 20 años seremos 10.000. En 30 años más seremos 11.000. Para dentro de 30 años hay que aumentar un 70% lo que el mundo produce para alimentar a la gente. Y hoy no hay recursos para ello. Pero además, el mundo tira 1/3 de los alimentos que se producen. Y en esa actividad de no tirar, aprovechar todos los subproductos, los residuos, es donde hemos focalizado nuestra parte de sostenibilidad medioambiental. Porque la sostenibilidad, desde el punto de vista social, lo hemos dedicado a atender al mundo de la discapacidad. Y el 16% de nuestras personas En España, el 12% de nuestras personas en el mundo son personas discapacitadas. Pero en sostenibilidad medioambiental, quiero enfatizar cómo desde el año 2018 todas nuestras fábricas tienen residuo cero. Es decir, no tiramos nada. Todo se usa otra vez, o para alimentación humana o para alimentación animal. Y todo lo que no puede usarse para alimentar lo convertimos en gas que utilizamos en nuestros propios procesos industriales y en fertilizante para que los agricultores con los que trabajamos, más de 500 agricultores que hacen lo que necesitamos para volver a hacer galletas a través del trigo, usen para fertilizar sus campos. Utilizamos la economía circular como un concepto que lo tenemos interiorizado y eso nos hace pensar que vamos a dejar a la siguiente generación una parte, la pequeña parte que nos corresponde por responsabilidad del planeta, mejor que la que hemos recibido.
Thank you very much. We have shifted to Spanish. I hope this is not a great inconvenience for the audience. But anyway, if it is, we will have some opportunities to go back to these issues during the questions and answers period. And now, Alejandro Martinez from Eroski.
Thank you very much for the invitation of being part of this extraordinary panel, where I can find the moment to explain how Eroski, my company, understands and works with this issue. So thank you very much. We have done a lot of things in the past, because climate change and sustainability is a key issue for us from the very beginning of our company. For example, probably you don't know that the first company in Spain to eliminate the sprays who were damaging the ozone in the atmosphere a lot of years ago was Eroski. The first sustainable bag in one shop in Spain was an Eroski bag. The first sustainable shop 7 years ago, no emissions shop, was Eroski. And we can probably find more examples. We introduced this perspective in all the value chain. We work with different suppliers doing different products. We are certifying, for example, all the products of our own brand in fresh food with GAP certification. We work with animal welfare standards. We don't use any synthetic fungicide in the fruits and vegetables. We are eliminating all the plastic in the fresh food area. 70% of the sales are of naked fruits and vegetables. The trays where we sell meat and fish are made with recycled plastic. 100% of recycled plastic in bakery products, 80% in meat and fish. Probably you don't know that. We work in the eco-design of all the products of our own brand, and we are going to reduce 20% of the plastic by 2025. We have reduced a lot of emissions from the logistics distribution, from the trucks, and next year the reduction will be at 20%, which is a lot. We have reduced 12% of the water consumption in all our company. We work with Spanish, regional and local suppliers. 98% of the sales are made with Spanish products, but more than 15% is done with very local, small local and regional suppliers from the first sector. Fresh food is very important for the Spanish consumer, and it's very important for us to provide them with sustainable local products. We have more than 1,000 ecological products in our shops. We have changed, of course, the bags. Everybody has done that, but we were the first to do things in that chain 12, 20 years ago, depending on the materials, compostable, biodegradable, paper, textile bags. We encourage our customers to use a very simple Tupperware to buy fish and meat instead of plastic surrounding the products. And of course, the shops are very important. The energy of the shops must be reduced. We have one shop open 7 years ago that uses 65% less electrical energy than an ordinary shop. And it was the first shop in Spain with the ISO 50,000. We are very committed in minimizing the waste. We have a very strong program, zero waste program, and every product that cannot be sold but is apt for the human use, we donate to more than 100 solidal companies all over Spain. The result of this program is more than 5,000 tons of food are given to people who need it each year all over the country. There are one more thing, the education of consumers. We are a cooperative. We have the consumers very inside of us. They were the ones who created Eroski 50 years ago. Now we are celebrating our 50th anniversary. And we think that only a well-educated consumer, a consumer that has in his mind the differences and the important criteria to choose properly is the only way to progress. So we invest a lot of resources in educating the consumers. For example, we have a plan to educate children at schools, and each year more than 400,000 children are through this program, which is very successful. It is a lot of the children of our country. So this is the fast review of all our activities from the very beginning, the producers to the end, the consumer. And we are now thinking on the future, but we will talk about the future later, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro. And finally, José Ángel Rupérez, who in a way presides an organization which is in charge of the follow-up of all the measures which are implemented by the companies on spread companies all over the country. So what is your feeling about this follow-up of what the companies are doing?
Well, perhaps the first will be to introduce my organization. Well, I'm sorry, my English is not good, but I hope there will be no problem for the present to understand my speech. This have some advantage. I'm sure the Spanish present people don't have problem to understand me, even though it doesn't matter, no English or not. Okay, well, we are optimistic. We are a foundation, a very small foundation. In comparison with this organization, we are micro organization, and we are optimistic. This is the reason for my pink color of the shirt. Well, ecology and development is our name, and these two words already explain something of our purpose. Our vision is wellness for all people within the limits of the planet. In order to achieve this objective, we cannot act alone, of course. So our mission is to look for, sorry, I don't know the word in English, cómplices, partners, perhaps, partners in citizenship, civil society, organizations, companies, and public administration to accelerate the transition to a green, inclusive, and responsible economy. we like to have relationship and collaboration with any person or organization that came out activities in the direction of our mission. For instance, people of our organization are members of councils of administration, large companies, or associations. Because mainly companies, big companies, because we think the companies that have been part of the problem must be part of the solution. Must be, can be, and a lot of them won't be part of the solution. We work with platforms like Comunidad por el Clima, with other organizations, like the group of green growing with a lot of companies, or Global Compact, or this. We work and create this platform. We work also with a label to compensate emissions in voluntary market, like CO2, or many other things, energy poverty. What we think about this question of following? We work in several projects. One main project, for instance, is the report of CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project, okay? Where many traded companies in stock, put a lot of information yearly, and of course, their compromise in reduce the carbon footprint. And every year, CDP check the progress of this compromise. We also create, as I mentioned, the Comunidad por el Clima. In this platform, it's possible for people, every of us, put compromise, personal compromise, and also for administration or third sector, and specifically for companies. Two levels: small companies or large companies with compromise, and other with many data and compromise. We don't like to make in parallel check-ins with other platforms. Well, there are a lot of companies that don't make compromise already. We prefer to work and to dedicate our resources to grow the companies, more and more companies establish compromise, than to check the progress of the organization that with compromise and good development in the right way.
Okay. So thank you. So you have chosen the route of incentivizing companies to make commitments more than to check if these commitments are accomplished or not. I think is of course an option. I think it's a very useful option. The second topic I would like to address is the topic of technologies. Some of them have come through. Of course, I do not want to confront cars with trains, not here at least, and not planes with trains or with cars. But, well, I think some technologies have come through. Of course, one of them, hydrogen. So I will start with Marcelino. If you can talk a little bit more about which technologies you think are more promising to achieve our commitments in terms of fight against climate change.
Now something's wrong.
Microphone, please.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
So I was saying everything we can do today or next year to fight against climate change is very important. Therefore, using technologies available today is something that will help us. Going in and out. I think it's me. It's my fault. I'm not getting now. I think it's my fault. It's not the microphone. So we have to. No, I'll do it this way. Perhaps it's easier. Let me do it this way. Okay, slighter than the other one. So we have to be quick, and that's why we think we should use technologies available today. So the first one is LNG. So commuting from other fossil fuels to LNG will reduce CO2 emissions very quickly. I mean, LNG consumption or production combustion reduces by 30% compared with other fossil fuels, and will reduce SOx, NOx, and molecules. So that's the first technology we should use. The second one, and available already, is hydrogen. So we are investing heavily in hydrogen. We have 2 or 3 pilot projects already. One in Cartagena, in our regas plant in Cartagena. We are working very closely with the government, with the Balearic program, in order to produce hydrogen for mobility in Baleares, with the Spanish government, the local government, and Acciona. And I think it's going to be a very important project in Europe. It's going to be at least the beginning 2 megawatt hydrogen production for mobility in the islands. We are working together with Repsol in order to produce a cellular fuel cell that will produce direct hydrogen without going through the grid. Sorry about this is not going to be liked by other utilities. We are working heavily, and also with the help of CEDETI, of the Spanish government, helping us there. So hydrogen is really going to be one of the technologies, one of the drivers, not only to store energy, but to substitute other hydrogen, so brown hydrogen, grey hydrogen with green hydrogen, to blend hydrogen with natural gas in order to decarbonize the gas flowing through our pipes, and of course also to store that hydrogen to produce new electricity in the future. So that, against batteries, I think is going to be one of the drivers in the future, but in the near future. It's going to come close. And I'm sure we're going to see many new investments in the near future.
Thank you. And now I should like to have the opinion of Cure industrial company, Astalgo. Perhaps you have talked a little bit about materials. We know now then the reduction in emissions using trains instead of cars or planes. But you have talked a little bit about Talgo as a lighter product as other companies. I should like to talk a little bit more about it.
Yes. Thank you, Elena. Yes, in our industry, in the railway industry, in trains, weight is important in 2 senses. On the one hand, the weight of the trains is a condition for safety. I mean, a train to keep on the track in the corps needs weight, because if not, it would derail. Saying so very simply, but that's the idea. So on the one hand, you need weight, but on the other hand, weight goes against what we are talking about now, against the fight of climate change, and weight on the other hand also, from practical points of view, goes against economic efficiency, because it means more expense of energy. So this is the equilibrium that all the manufacturers we try to solve. In the case of, this is in the industry in general. In our case, I can talk to you about our experience. In Talgo, we have a very, as I mentioned before, a very special technology that allow us, and I use the correct word, to make lighter trains, because we can maintain the level of safety with much lighter weight. This is a very key importance. I mean, all the manufacturers would like to make lighter trains, but they cannot because they need a certain type of weight. We don't need it. We can reduce the weight of trains. We have done so until now, as I expressed before, but what we are planning for the future with this target that we are talking about of reducing the emissions is to reduce even more the weight of the trains using new materials, for instance, carbon fiber. We are already very advanced in this. We can say that maybe in a very short future we'll have our first train of fiber of carbon, and also using, as I mentioned also before, hydrogen as a power, in the power track of the train. So if we can substitute electricity by hydrogen, it would be even better, because hydrogen is even cleaner than electricity. Electricity produces zero emissions, as I mentioned, but anyway, you have to produce the electricity. Hydrogen, once we have it, it will be with no doubt the cleaner of all the tractions. So our let's say line goes in this direction. I think all the manufacturers in our industry goes more or less in this direction. We have some specificity in our company derived directly from our technology, which is the independent wheel, the articulated train, the natural tilting, all these things that allow our trains to derail less, I mean to have less tendency to derail in curves, which means that it allows you to have lighter trains with the same level of safety. So it's an example in which technology helps directly to take decisions that would go against the emissions, putting in a very short way. No? I would say the two lines that we have are those.
I think it's very interesting. Now I will go step by step. Now I should like to give the floor to Ferrovial, which is an infrastructure services company, but it's also a services company in itself. And I think more than half of your business is in the services side.
It is for the time being, no? But we are mainly an infrastructure company, no?
Yeah.
And we define ourselves as infrastructure. No? But I mentioned previously about the three main challenges, no? That we see in the infrastructure sector. No? And I commented about the mobility, I commented about the green aviation, and I commented about the cities in general, and more specifically about energy efficiency in buildings. No? And I think that I'm also very optimistic that I think there are solutions. No? There are new technologies, innovations, and also Ferrovial could be part of the solution. No? Of course, there are still many things to do, but I think in the case, for instance, of mobility, no? What we see in general is electrification. No? Electric cars, clearly, in 3-4 years, they will be cost competitive, and we'll see with that a huge challenge with infrastructure. No? How you have electric charging stations, about the grids, how you need to change for that. Hydrogen, and maybe it's also in the future, it will be part of the solution for cars, no? With a huge infrastructure needed.
CNG cars.
CNG cars also at the same time. No? We see also mobility as a service now more and more. We have City, the car sharing car, mentioning about service business, now part of the mobility division. We see also virtual mobility operators like Wondo that is offering different solutions on transportation, and that you can find, and you can select the one that is best for you. We see autonomous cars, so we see a lot of new technologies in mobility that could help us. No? Also for infrastructures, what we see is a reinvention, no, of the transport infrastructure. No? Why not to generate energy, no, in our highways? No? That's something that could happen. No? Why not use it in order to have induction charging systems? No? So it things in which we are working, and we see a future there. No? We have a good sample with our NT highway in Dallas. It's the first certified carbon neutral highway, and it's a solution. I mean, it's a very congested area in Dallas with 4 general purpose lanes. We added another 2 lanes in that highway, reduced congestion, increased the average speed time, and with that it was neutral emissions. No? So I think it was very positive, and I see many new developments, still many things to be done, but I think that there are plenty of opportunities that the private sector could take. No? In aviation is more or less the same. No? I see in aviation that there are many ways to improve, no? Efficiency in air traffic management, the runaway throughput, the aircraft holding times, taxing with electric cars, engine efficiency. Now we're talking about hybrid engines using biofuels that is already used and is available. It's a question of price today. And you need to combine different actors, no? Hydro, of course, is part of that. They have the Center for Excellence in Sustainability. You need to combine different people to reach carbon neutral for the aviation sector. And Hydro is taking the lead, no? Hydro is already next year carbon neutral, and they are taking steps also to have zero emissions by 2050, no? And also, at the same time, when you talk about cities, we see huge opportunities in energy efficiency. We see thermal inertia in buildings, geothermal, solar panels, waste treatment. So I think that there are plenty of opportunities that are available today that we can use as a company. Of course, we need to change our business models in order to take advantage of those things. But I think there are plenty of opportunities to reduce emissions and to contribute as a private sector.
Okay, thank you. And now, well, I think I should ask Cerealto Zero Foods and Eroski, of course, talk about technology. They have talked about the circular economy. They have also mentioned the problem of plastics in a way of this over-packaging that we have. Well, I have heard that in the case of plastic, you have to use the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Yes. Because recycle is very difficult in plastic. So perhaps we may talk a little bit more with both of you. First Juan Manuel, and then from Eroski about which are the technologies that you think are more promising in this way of reducing the contamination, the plastic contamination. You know.
Yes, the 3 R are the focus, the target in our companies. And I was thinking when you speak about the waste doing trains, the waste doing biscuits is the most important thing that we have to think.
The weighting.
The waste.
The weighting.
The wasted. At the end, we have to reduce landfill to 0. Yes? And then in food, we can do it. We can do it recycling and reusing. But in plastic we need the collaboration of the population. We have to cover certain products with plastic. We have to do it because the date of consumption needs cover and protection for certain products. But we have to reduce the plastic with new technologies, probably with paper, or probably composting the envelope of or the plastic, biological with treatment, with biological treatment. But the collaboration of the consumer, separating the different items, is one of the most important things. Because the solid plastic is different than the soft plastic. And if you mix, you destroy the capability to reduce, to reuse. And then it's an industrial problem, a cultural industrial problem, and a cultural consumer problem that we have to push, strongly push, and increase the attitude to reduce. And in terms of production, we have to use less inputs with new technology. And new technology probably starting with simplification before the digitalization and before using the artificial intelligence in order to reduce all the raw materials. in order to reduce the energy, and that's the two more important things that we have to do with the technology, yes, and with the culture. Yes.
Okay, so Alejandro, perhaps you may
I agree
also
with
talk about technologies.
everything that he has said, and I will add some new perspectives, because plastic is a very big, huge problem, a very central problem in retailing, because everything is covered with plastic in a conventional shop. And if we want to eliminate it, the ways of buying change a lot. And not only that you have to carry the goods in something, also the food safety is maybe compromised. Also the living, the life of the product is shortened. So everything must be taken into account, because it's not only a question of changing plastic or eliminating plastic, it's a question of considering everything completely. For example, recycled plastic cannot be touching the product. So if you use recycled plastic, you have to add a very thin layer of virgin plastic, multi-layer plastic, which is very difficult to recycle when it is finished. So you solve one part of the problem, but you increase the problem in other part of the chain. And not always the plastic is the worst of the solutions. When you do an accurate analysis of the complete cycle of each one of the possibilities, sometimes plastic is better than paper. But the consumer cannot understand that. Plastic is always the worst solution for the consumer. So we have to balance all these things. We have to educate the consumers, and probably we should be able in future to use big data and all the technologies of the information to calculate very accurately the impact, the environmental impact of each one of the solutions that we sell in the shops, so the consumers can see and compare. All of us know the nutritional labeling. In one country is the traffic light system, the Nutri-Score in other countries. We all know that, and we have learned to compare, to choose which is healthier for us. The European Commission is working in developing the same thing, the same idea, a simple labeling for the environmental articles, so the consumer can compare and choose. I think that this is much more complicated than the nutritional facts, but it has to be done. It's an imperative, so the consumer can take the decision, and when the consumer takes a decision, everything changes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alejandro. Well, I think perhaps we may have a little bit of debate among us. You may come in as far as you want, and Marcelino wanted to say something about it.
Just one question. One of the R&D projects we are working on is to produce hydrogen out of recycled plastics. So I ask you to team up with us, both of you. We need 25 tons of recycled plastic per day in order to produce hydrogen. And I'm sure that with your plastic, with our technology, and with the ministry, that I'm sure will help, we could do the first pilot to produce hydrogen out of recycled plastics in Spain. So after this, I'll keep in touch with you, and perhaps we can come out with some practical R&D project out of this conference.
Yeah, of course, and if the consequence of this is debate is a coalition to reduce plastic and, of course, emissions, I think it will be most than welcome. And, of course, we have not talked about digitalization, artificial intelligence, and so on. I think this may help, but perhaps you may say something about the technologies that have been advanced here today. Yeah.
Concerning the technologies with more, they have most potential to reduce carbon footprint. I would like to introduce a material that I'm sure is the matter of interest for all of companies of this panel, for air conditioning, for cooling, for freezing. I speak about fluorinated gases. Fluorinated gases, and Montreal Protocol take the decision to phase out chloride gases because of the high impact to ozone layer and replace with fluorinated gases. Now we check fluorinated gases is more or less 5% of the problem of climate change. And the European Union and other countries is working to replace this gas with other gas, and this requires, curiously, somebody is speaking about CO2 like a potential replacement gas, but requires new technology, changes in the technology of air conditioning, of cooling. In every house we have freezer and cooling equipment. It's a big technology change, very interesting. Another field is waste, food waste. Food waste in a world with more population now is more or less 30% in the world and represent more or less 8% of the problem of climate change. This is another field that requires really not only technology, also social innovation, but it's a very good field to work for companies to make innovation. These two fields I consider are very, very interesting. Both summarize more than 10% of total emissions in the world.
Well, thank you. Well, I think what the audience may see is that perhaps we have put all the attention on fossil fuels, and there are other measures which can reduce emissions. One of them, of course, is the weight of the products, as Carlos Palacio has very certainly achieved. Other way is also automation and artificial intelligence, as also electricity in the case of cars. Another one is the way to use less plastic in our daily life. And finally, and I see the minister has arrived and she will address us some words at the end. So finally, I would like to hear the opinion of ECODES, perhaps only a number, a probability, a possibility of fulfillment of the objectives of the Paris Agreement. Of course, the objectives of Paris Agreement are global, so it's difficult to say if we consider only Spanish companies, the possibility of achieving the objectives that have been pushed forward. And the rest of the companies, the role of the sustainability in the strategic plans, and which are the difficulties which may arise in the fulfillment of these objectives. Perhaps the ministry has also interest in knowing how, from the public administration, they can help in achieving these objectives. So, first, ECODES, okay. And then...
I really don't know will happen. It doesn't matter what I think or what ECODES thinks. We don't like to dedicate our resources to predicting the future. We prefer to build the future. This is our aim, to build in the future. Of course, we will encourage to fulfill the agreement of Paris to everybody. For instance, I encourage to the presence, to entry into the Comunidad por el Clima, hashtag por el Clima, and to introduce your personal commitments with the climate, okay? You can do it very easy. Then we don't dedicate resources to make predictions. we build the future, together with the companies, the administration, or people.
No, I see you're optimistic anyway. Well, now the other way around, starting from with Eroski, which are your plans for the future?
Our plans for the future are to continue working in what I explained in the first intervention. So we are going to increase our commitment with the sustainability in each one of the steps of the value chain. I think that nobody is closer to the customers than the shop where they daily buy the goods for their families. So we have the opportunity to be the ones who change the consumer mind. This is maybe one of the most important differences among us and the rest of the companies, because we have the citizens there. Today, thousands of people are going to buy in Eroski shops, and tomorrow it will happen again, I hope. So we have the huge opportunity to help them to change the ways of buying and consuming. And of course, sustainability is in the core of our strategy. We want to be distinguished and preferred by offering a healthier and more sustainable proposal for the lives of the consumers. So we will continue doing things to change the products, to change the relation with our suppliers, to improve the efficiency of the logistic chain, and to change the shops to more efficient ones. But if the consumer doesn't change their minds, I think that only half of the movie is satisfying. The other half of the movie is not. And only with 100% of people doing things, everything will change in the positive direction.
Juan Manuel, please.
Yes. Yes. Okay. At the end, we want to be a company that the society wants us to exist. And the sustainability is our focus because the consumer, the society, wants that the sustainability is in our heart and in all the things that we are doing. In the different ways of sustainability, economical, social, and environmental. That means that if the consumer don't want that we exist, they don't buy our products. And every single day, 4 million consumers choose one packet of our products. If they don't want that we exist, we close the door. We have to close the door. That means that we dream with sustainability because our company wants to be in the same place, probably with different actors for the next 500 years.
Okay, thank you. Well, now, Carlos, you have talked a little bit about trains and about the weight. Well, perhaps the solution is something like combined transport, or what do you think about which are your plans for the future? How do you foresee the future in terms of climate change for your company?
For the company? Well, I've already talked about in our strategy the importance of continuing reducing the weight, which is something that still we think we have a big margin on that. We can think that in the very short future we can reduce the weight around 25% for our trains, which means, again, 25% less emissions. But before talking about the combined transport, which is a very interesting question, we can talk about a part of that. I wanted to point out, to talk now about one point that all of us, we can do from now, which is a very practical point of view. It's also something that in our strategic plans is already considered since recently, and we pretend to put it in action as soon as possible. is the fact that we think we need to encourage and to help our employees, our partners as far as we can, our suppliers as far as we can, and we think we have a big margin there to work on that, to reduce also themselves their personal footprint, I mean their personal way of living and way of working, so that they could reduce the emissions. That's something that from the companies we can do very easily. We have the example of many companies already in our country, but mainly in Central Europe, mainly in Germany, have had a very interesting experience in that sense.
You have lost.
So that's something I wanted to express. We are already on it, and that's something that I encourage to all the companies to start doing, because it's very easy and it's not complicated. And now coming back to the combined transport, of course the public transport like railways, and given the new trends, mainly from young people, that what they want is not to have the ownership of a car or whatever, they prefer public transport in general. And what they want is that you solve their problem from point to point. It's clear that trains, they go from a station to another station. We have to find this solution for them, in which we have to try to find in our strategic plans also strategies of collaboration, of, let's say, yes, one way or the other, collaborate with other types of new ways of transport that are advancing very, very fast. And we are on it also. We are in this also. And we think that the future will go in this direction.
Okay, thank you. Marcelino.
Thank you very much. First thing, I think I have to work more with Carlos to convince him that non-electrified railways should go from diesel to LNG. I was hoping you would say this, but something I've worked on. So sustainability is going to be very important for all of our companies. It's already in our strategic plans. So reduction of emissions of footprint is part of our goal, of our objectives, of our objectives as employees, as leaders of the companies. It's good that someone looks at this and makes sure that we fulfill our commitments. But there's two things important. One is that this is urgent. So it's urgent to fight against climate change. We should go for initiatives that could solve a little bit of the problem today and tomorrow, and not only look on the long term. That's very important for us also. The second one is this is something that is everyone's responsibility. It's not only the government or the companies or the boards. Everyone has things to say and to do to reduce footprint. So I fully agree with Carlos. And we need, therefore, also the regulation to help us to fulfill this fight against climate change and to reduce emissions. Again, I'm speaking about my interest by gas, shifting from other fuels to gas. As soon as we do that, as soon we will reduce CO2 emissions. And that's something that is everyone here, everyone can fight against climate change, and that's important for us. It's not someone else's fault, it's not someone else to do it, it's all of us.
Thank you. And finally, Ignacio.
There is no doubt that top performers in sustainability are also top performers in financial results, and also investors know about that. And they are requesting from all companies that we are top performers in sustainability too. And the only way to achieve that is that you identify the risk and the opportunities related to climate change, and that you quantify the economic impact. And with that, you adapt your business model for the future in order to create value for all stakeholders. So I think that as a company, we all look at these challenges as opportunities and consider them as part of our business plan. It's the way in which we generate value, and it's also what investors are asking from us.
Okay, so there are many issues which have been tackled today. We will have more opportunities, of course, to discuss on green finance, as you have slightly mentioned, and other issues. But I don't know, I think, welcome, Minister. I don't know if there is some question from the audience before giving way to the final words from the Minister. Yep.
I will do my question in. I will ask my question in Spanish.
Okay.
La pregunta que me hago es, la transición ecológica y la descarbonización de la economía va a ser algo muy duro, complejo y costoso. Y queda muy poco tiempo para hacerlo. Entonces veo que a nivel de las empresas industriales que tienen un papel clave en este proceso hay mucha energía y creatividad, pero no sé si se puede alcanzar unos objetivos que sean efectivos sin una cooperación europea, en el sentido de que Europa a día de hoy está diseñada para organizar la competencia y no está diseñada para organizar la cooperación, aunque hay ejemplos como Airbus donde funciona. Y no sé si lo vamos a conseguir sin un poco más de cooperación europea.
Thank you. I cannot guess precisely who is the one who has to answer, but perhaps Marcelino, he has some interest in answering.
I'm not going to tell you how convinced I am of the European Union and how convinced I am that the European Union is going to help us to achieve many of the objectives and the fight against climate change. Speaking about myself and my industry, the European TSOs work together very closely in order to reduce CO2 emissions. We have a special organization called Gas for Climate, where all of us look for initiatives reducing CO2s and promoting renewable gas, allowing renewable gas to go through our pipes. So cooperation is already there, at least in our industry and in many others, and many times promoted and led by the European Union.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Thank you, everybody. I would like to know the position of the industry as regards to nuclear energy as one of the sources of the cleanest energy.
Wow, nuclear energy. Well, I think perhaps this question is addressed to the energy representative in this debate and this panel.
It's easy. I'm more for gas than for nuclear industry. So I mean, I'm more in the gas industry. So I wouldn't be here to speak about nuclear.
Thank you. So, well, I think of course, the minister here. We are thrilled of listening to her, where she wants to tell us. And well, thanks to the audience for your attention, and thanks, of course, to all the panelists for the effort they have made in explaining which are the commitments that they have made and which are the plans that they have for the future. So thank you very much to you all. And please, Minister.
Thank you very much. I talk in Spanish, sorry. Muchísimas gracias. Lamento no haber podido asistir a todo el panel que sin duda ha ilustrado, y ese era el objetivo en una conferencia tan importante, donde además de visibilizar lo que queremos hacer, esta conferencia tiene un rol muy importante, y es lo que vamos a hacer, ¿no? El leitmotiv de la conferencia lo veis ahí, it's time for the planet, es tiempo de actuar. Tenemos ya la hoja de ruta y lo que tenemos es que trazar las medidas para que efectivamente podamos alcanzar esos objetivos, y sobre todo el gran objetivo que es la descarbonización del planeta en el 2050. Una de las preguntas es el rol de la Unión Europea, es clave. Creo que si conseguimos avanzar más rápido es porque estamos todos comprometidos, administraciones, el sector privado, la sociedad civil, es fundamental y por lo tanto, desde luego, desde el Gobierno de España hemos tendido alianzas y estamos trabajando con todos los sectores a través de esas agendas sectoriales que hemos podido poner en marcha ya con 6 sectores importantes de esta economía, pero desde luego el impulso no solo lo dan los países, las personas, las empresas, sino que necesitamos también que la Unión Europea en este nuevo mandato incorpore también no solo el cambio climático, sino una hoja de ruta para poder hacer esa transición. Para mí la descarbonización y la industria es una oportunidad. Creo que hay que verlo no como una amenaza, sino como una oportunidad. Y el panel ha demostrado que además en España no solo tenemos empresas comprometidas, sino que estamos a la vanguardia en muchos de los procesos de descarbonización, en la incorporación en toda la cadena de valor. Hoy estáis representados aquí gran parte de los sectores productivos de la industria, que sois además referentes multinacionales, por lo tanto lo que hacen en España también lo hacen en otros países donde estáis desarrollando vuestra actividad productiva y creo que, insisto, la COP25 representa una oportunidad no solo para poner en la hoja de ruta que el cambio climático es una necesidad para el planeta, para las personas, pero también para las empresas, sino que es una oportunidad para comprometernos. Yo que veo las notas de prensa a diario, me ha de alguna manera satisfecho, no sé cómo se dice, me ha agradado la cantidad de anuncios que todas las empresas, la sociedad civil, el propio gobierno ha puesto en la hoja de ruta de que esto es importante y de que tenemos que hacer, insisto, de esto una oportunidad. Así que aprovechemos también este impulso, que la COP25 se desarrolle en Madrid también nos permite que seamos un altavoz al mundo y creo que paneles como este nos permiten también visibilizar el compromiso de nuestra industria, la industria española, una industria que ha utilizado y que está utilizando la sostenibilidad como parte del valor de la empresa. Yo conozco muchos de los proyectos que están desarrollando los panelistas, somos también y nos hacemos eco de que estos proyectos son proyectos de presente y de futuro y estoy convencida de que con el impulso necesario, por supuesto desde el Gobierno de España, que lo hemos puesto como una prioridad, desde el sector empresarial y la sociedad civil y en el marco de la Comisión Europea, que necesitamos también su impulso. Para nosotros desde industria es muy importante y así lo estamos defendiendo, que haya realmente una política industrial europea. Y eso en este momento hay que ganárselo, tenemos que ser muchos los países que defendamos esta posición para que la industria sea también una industria que utilice la sostenibilidad como valor y no como amenaza. Creo que estamos en esa línea y que con el trabajo de todos, desde las administraciones, las empresas, la sociedad civil, en el marco de esta conferencia tan importante vamos a pasar a la acción, vamos a hacer que esa hoja de ruta, esos acuerdos de París, la Agenda 2030 que nos inspira, haga que esos compromisos se conviertan en realidades. Hay cosas por hacer, muchas cosas, sabemos también que tenemos que ir más rápido y por eso nos tenemos que poner a trabajar para reforzar, desde luego desde el Gobierno, y así lo hemos hecho en el marco estratégico de energía y clima, el acompañamiento. Hoy hay referentes de grandes empresas que por iniciativa han hecho de esto una oportunidad. A veces no nos habéis necesitado, otros sí, y tenemos que inspirar a las pequeñas. La pequeña y la mediana empresa es la que tiene también que incorporar en su proyecto la sostenibilidad como oportunidad y ese trabajo lo tenemos que hacer en el marco de las agendas sectoriales, alineando la política industrial también con la política climática, que es necesario para converger hacia unos objetivos, insisto, que nos comprometen, que hoy es un día para comprometerse, lo dije también ayer con el sector turístico, y para ir trazando esa hoja de ruta que sin duda desde España podemos hacerlo. Estoy convencida, si hemos conseguido en 3 semanas tener aquí la COP, ¿cómo no vamos a poder ser también baluartes de ese cambio climático que nos amenaza y que sin duda es también un compromiso país y un compromiso personal? Lo decía Ecodes, de todos depende que el planeta sea más sostenible y por lo tanto hoy nos tenemos que comprometer. Y muchas gracias, referentes, y nos inspiráis cada día para seguir trabajando y para que la voz de ellos, desde luego de la Administración y de la sociedad civil, se escuche hoy, se escuche en todas las instituciones y la Comisión Europea. Estoy convencida porque la nueva presidenta lo ha puesto como una prioridad y de hecho en el próximo Consejo Europeo quiere llevar ya el fondo, el New Deal, por lo tanto creo que es ambiciosa. Y entre todos tenemos que conformar este proyecto país, pero también un proyecto europeo. Hay otros que se están quedando fuera, todos los tenemos en la cabeza y por lo tanto tenemos que inspirar también, creo, desde la Unión Europea, que estamos comprometidos para que el cambio climático sea parte de nuestro proyecto, que hagamos del cambio climático una oportunidad y que sin duda trabajemos en todos los ámbitos para que esta amenaza, y con esto acabo, se convierte en oportunidad. Es tiempo de actuar por el planeta también nos lo está pidiendo, las nuevas generaciones nos están pidiendo y próximamente, en los próximos días, habrá una gran manifestación de jóvenes que nos reclaman también a las instituciones que hagamos algo, así que hagámoslo juntos, que somos más fuertes siempre y desde luego lancemos una voz a todos los que nos están escuchando de que se puede hacer. Yo soy optimista, creo que aquí estamos todos comprometidos y por lo tanto con este optimismo es la mejor manera de conseguir las cosas. Hablaba esta mañana de los sueños, así que hagamos que los sueños se hagan realidad y creo que vamos por el buen camino. Muchísimas gracias.